Men, love languages were supposed to help us understand each other better. But some women have weaponized them into manipulation tools that exploit your desire to be a good partner. Instead of using love languages to communicate needs authentically, they twist them into psychological traps that keep you confused, guilty, and constantly trying to prove your love while never feeling like you're doing enough. The worst part? Because love languages sound like legitimate relationship wisdom, you might not realize you're being manipulated until you're exhausted from trying to speak a language that keeps changing its rules. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment if you've ever felt like no matter how much you gave, it was never the right love language. Your experience might help another man recognize the manipulation before he empties himself trying to fill a bottomless pit. Manipulation. 1. That's not my love language, the moving target defense. This manipulation involves rejecting every effort you make by claiming it doesn't match her love language, creating an impossible situation where nothing you do counts as real love. You plan a thoughtful date. That's quality time, but her love language is gifts. You buy her something meaningful. That's gifts, but she needs words of affirmation. You express verbal appreciation. Those are just words. She needs acts of service. No matter what you offer, it's somehow the wrong language. The manipulation works because love language theory gives her legitimate-sounding vocabulary to dismiss your efforts. Instead of appreciating that you're trying to show love in multiple ways, she can categorize each attempt into the wrong language and claim you're not really loving her properly. Your constant efforts become evidence that you don't understand her rather than proof that you care deeply. Notice whether her love language is actually consistent or whether it changes based on what she wants to dismiss. Does she claim acts of service is her language when she wants you to do chores, but suddenly it's quality time when she wants attention, then gifts when she wants something purchased? A genuine love language preference stays relatively stable. A weaponized one shifts strategically to ensure nothing you do qualifies as adequate. Watch what happens when you specifically ask what her love language is and try to speak it consistently. Does she appreciate the effort and acknowledge you're meeting her needs? Or does she find reasons why your attempts at her stated language still don't count? Your acts of service aren't the right acts. Your quality time isn't quality enough. Your gifts aren't thoughtful enough. If speaking her stated language still results in complaints, the language itself isn't the real issue. Manipulation. And 2. You only love me in your love language. The empathy accusation. This manipulation flips the script by accusing you of being selfish for showing love in ways that feel natural to you, rather than transforming yourself completely into her preferred methods. She claims you're not really loving her. You're just doing what's easy for you, which proves you don't care enough to learn how she actually receives love. This transforms your genuine efforts into evidence of selfishness. The manipulation works because it sounds like a reasonable request for empathy. Relationships do require understanding your partner's needs, so the demand that you love her in her language rather than yours seems legitimate. But the manipulation is in completely dismissing your natural expression of love as worthless, while demanding you fundamentally change how you demonstrate affection. Notice whether she applies the standard to herself. Is she learning your love language and speaking it, or is this a one-way demand? If you need words of affirmation and she rarely gives them, but she demands you give constant gifts, which isn't natural to you, the double standard reveals manipulation. Mutual adaptation is healthy. Unilateral demands are control. Watch whether she acknowledges any value in how you naturally show love. Can she recognize that when you spend time fixing her car, you're showing love even if acts of service isn't her primary language? Or does she completely dismiss anything outside her preferred language as meaningless? The inability to see love in multiple forms suggests she's using languages as a weapon rather than a communication tool. Pay attention to whether she's demanding you suppress your natural love expression entirely. Some people naturally express love through touch, actions, time, or words. If she's requiring you to never show love in your natural way and only in her way, she's not asking for adaptation. She's demanding you become someone else entirely. Manipulation 3. If you really loved me, you'd know my love language. The mind-reading demand. This manipulation involves claiming that if you truly loved her, you wouldn't need to ask about her love language. You'd just know it instinctively. Your need to ask questions, seek clarification, or learn through trial and error becomes evidence that your love is shallow or inadequate. Real love, according to this manipulation, includes psychic powers that make explicit communication unnecessary. The manipulation works because romantic mythology does promote the idea that true love involves deep intuitive understanding. By weaponizing this fairy tale, she makes your reasonable requests for clear communication look like failures of love. If you loved her properly, you'd sense what she needs without her having to tell you. Notice whether she provides clear communication about her needs or whether she expects you to intuit them from subtle hints and then punishes you for failing to read her mind. Does she clearly state, "I appreciate receiving small, thoughtful gifts because it makes me feel remembered"? Or does she just seem upset after occasions where you didn't bring a gift, leaving you to guess what went wrong? Watch what happens when you do ask directly about her preferences. Does she appreciate the question as showing you care about meeting her needs? Or does she respond with disappointment that you had to ask, suggesting that genuine love wouldn't require explicit instruction? If asking makes you the bad guy, she's demanding psychic abilities rather than healthy communication. The psychological mechanism is making you responsible for both sides of communication by requiring you to intuit her needs without her stating them, then blaming you when your intuition fails. This creates an impossible standard where you're always wrong, either for not knowing without asking or for asking instead of knowing. The long-term impact is constant anxiety about whether you're meeting unspoken needs, combined with fear of asking questions that might reveal your love is inadequate. You become hypervigilant, trying to read subtle signals and guess preferences, which is exhausting and ultimately futile because mind reading isn't actually possible. Manipulation. 4. I feel most loved when the escalating demands. This manipulation uses love language vocabulary to make increasingly expensive or demanding requests sound like reasonable emotional needs. I feel most loved when you surprise me with jewelry isn't a love language preference. It's a demand for expensive gifts disguised as emotional vulnerability. But by framing it as how she feels loved, she makes refusing seem like you don't care about her emotional well-being. The manipulation works because love languages are supposed to be about emotional needs, so describing preferences as feelings makes them seem non-negotiable. You can debate whether someone deserves expensive gifts, but questioning someone's feelings seems cruel. By packaging demands as emotional needs, she makes them difficult to refuse without seeming heartless. Notice whether what she describes as her love language involves reasonable emotional connection or expensive material displays. Feeling loved through quality time spent in deep conversation is a love language. Feeling loved only when that time is spent at expensive restaurants is a financial demand wearing a love language disguise. Watch whether the specific expressions of her love language escalate over time. Does "I feel loved when you bring me flowers" become "I only feel loved when you bring me expensive roses from the boutique florist"? Does "I appreciate when you help around the house" become "I only feel appreciated when you completely take over all household tasks"? Escalating specificity reveals the love language framework is being used to extract more resources. Pay attention to whether her statements about feeling loved align with normal human emotional needs or with luxury preferences. Everyone needs appreciation, connection, and affection. Not everyone needs designer handbags, exotic vacations, and constant elaborate gestures to feel loved. If her love language requires significant financial investment, it might not be about love at all. Manipulation. 5. You're speaking the wrong love language to control me. The accusation reversal. This manipulation involves claiming that when you show love in ways she doesn't prefer, you're not just missing the mark innocently, you're deliberately choosing the wrong language to manipulate or control her. You give her space when she's upset. You're withholding affection to punish her. You express love verbally. You're using empty words to avoid real action. This transforms your love expressions into evidence of malicious intent. The manipulation works because it reframes every loving gesture you make as a power play. Instead of seeing your acts of service as attempts to help, she interprets them as you controlling her through obligation. Instead of appreciating your words of affirmation, she sees them as you avoiding giving her what she really needs. Your love becomes abuse in this framework. Notice whether she assumes negative intent behind your expressions of love. Does she interpret your natural loving behavior as strategic manipulation? If you're showing love in the ways that feel authentic to you, but she's convinced you're doing it specifically to avoid her preferred language, she's attributing malicious calculation to what might just be different communication styles. Watch whether this accusation appears primarily when she wants something you're not providing. Does the claim that you're strategically speaking the wrong language emerge specifically when she's demanding something you're hesitant to give? This timing suggests the accusation is a manipulation tactic to guilt you into compliance.